Why common matters? How community is key to their well being. Last month, Delhi hosted a first of its kind dialogue on the conservation, restoration, and governance of common resources such as forest, community lands, and water bodies like lakes or rivers, all usually referred as commons. More than 500 people, mostly representing grassroots organization in different parts of India, attended the 3-day event, which was organized to raise awareness about the need to evolve more inclusive and community-led framework for the governance of the commons. Commons, their governance. Commons, their governance. Commons refer to resources that are not owned by individual groups or government but belong to and are shared by the community as whole. Forest, local pond, grazing land, rivers, and sacred sites are all commons in urban setting. Parks and lakes are commons. Common could be intangible too: language, folk art, or dance, local costumes, or traditional knowledge and shared resource. Such commons at the international level, the polar region of Arctic and Antarctic are considered global commons. No country is allowed to take ownership of these areas, even though everyone can use them for certain kinds of activity. Outer space, the moon, and planetary bodies as global commons. In the digital age, most internet and open source software are commons. Digital resources which Creative Commons license are meant to be used freely by everyone. Commons provide to variety of ecological and other services that are beneficial for entire community, but they need to be maintained, preserved, and usual sustainability. As these resources are accessible to all, they face a greater threat to over exploitation and damage. Since no one owns commons, the responsibility of maintenance and upkeep often become a problem. Commons have also come under increased stress due to climate change. Several kind of governance mechanisms have evolved to manage commons. There are international agreement for the use of management of polar region, outer space, and the high seas. The Paris Agreement on climate change, which seeks a maintain a livable planet for everyone, is an example. In urban areas, municipalities or other bodies of local government take care of commons. The rural areas, however, the governance of common is often very well defined or non-existent. Local communities do get involved, but in most cases they lack the resource of legal sanctions to manage their common spaces. The NGOs gathered in Delhi last month raised their voice mainly over the issue related to governance of these kinds of commons. Need for community leadership. In the past, it was believed that commons such as grazing lands or water bodies at the local level could not escape over exploitation or destruction, as everyone using them would tend to extract the most of themselves. This was referred to as tragedy of commons, a term popularized by ecological economist Garrett Hardin in the 1960s. The only viable solution was to either get the government or the market involved in managing or regulating the use of these common resources. This view was turned into the head by landmark research of Eleanor Ostrom. Her field studies and several local communities across the globe provided plenty of evidence to show that the community-led governance structure resulted in more sustainable management of common spaces. She also found that interventions of government or the market were not only way to deal with commons. Ostrom's work, which fetched her Nobel Prize in Economics 2009, first for women, culminated in book titled Governing the Commons: The Evolution Institution of of collective actions. Ostrom's ideas now form a backbone of the governance structures of commons in many parts of the world. These involve the participation of local communities in different ways depending on local context and requirements. Forest Rights Act significance. In India 2006 Forest Rights Act (FRA) is considered to be a good template for managing common forest resources. The Act gives individual and community ownership right to forest dwellers to live and carry out their livelihood in the forest areas. Before the Act, the Forest Department used to be the sole custodian of forest areas, although practices such as setting up joint forest management committees with representation from the local villages had begun acknowledging the role of indigenous people in the conversation for restoration of natural resources. The FRA is considered to be turning point as they recognized the legal rights of forest dweller over the lands. Jagdish Rao, director of Common Ground on the organization of Delhi's event, said FRA is good model for forest land, but similar framework need to be developed for the common resources in particular areas that are officially classified as wetland. Almost one-fourth of India's land mass, about 205 million acres, is estimated to be common, comprising community forest, pastures or water bodies. Almost 350 million rural people depend on these commons for their livelihood. These commons are estimated to generate economic value worth 6.6 lakh crore annually through the provision of good and ecological services. Rao said these schemes such as MG Narega, Mahatma Gandhi Narega, compensatory afforestation and green credits would become much more effective at governing commons. Of the rights of local are acknowledged. He said the NGO is working in his area wanted to the centered legislative or model commons bill which could be replicated or the adopted by state governments for more effective governance of the commons.